AM 1470, WNN, with more of what you need to know. Get all the latest on health with caller health questions and comments, breaking health news, the health alternative, outrage, and mystery of the week, Dr. Bob Martin Show, Sundays at 10 a.m.
Attention seniors, are you as confused about your Medicare options as I was? Do what I did. Call I Will Advisors at 954-753-8080. They answered all my questions over the phone, and when I was ready to make changes, since I can't drive, Debbie came to my house, which was so convenient. Debbie took care of everything for me. I was able to keep all my doctors and my same pharmacy down the street. Call Debbie at I Will Advisors, 954-753-8080, 954-753-8080.
Thousands of people around the world are learning how extra money can be made from home at Online Trading Academy. Learn about stocks, options, futures, and Forex. Here's a trading tip from one of the instructors.
You see what we've done at the Academy? We've taken this and we've simplified it down to just the basic factors that you need. There's a set of rules, follow them. There's a scoring system. If it scores greater than 7, take the trade. Set the trade up, walk away and forget it with 3 major components: a stop, an entry, and a target. You don't know what those mean? Come in, we'll teach you those.
Online Trading Academy. Learn the right way to trade stocks and more. Thousands have learned how extra money can be made from home and how risk is limited. See how it works. Reserve a pair of seats at a free half-day class in Broward and Palm Beach. Call now. Online Trading Academy, 561-674-9800. 561-674-9800. That's 561-674-9800.
Talk health. Talk wealth. Talk politics. Talk 1470 and 95.3 FM. WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show with local celebrity host Steve-O. Sit back each week while Steve-O educates you with live in-studio experts, such as lawyers, doctors, home improvement, and financial experts in their field. Call in and have your questions answered each week at 888-565-1470. Now, here is Steve-O with today's expert in their field.
Hey, beautiful afternoon. It is so ugly outside, but see, this is great. You're in your car, and we're going to keep you entertained for the next hour. Our first part of our show for Ask the Experts, this is their second time coming on, is the Florida Spine Specialist. Everybody's had some kind of back problem, and I want to introduce you to one of the partners of is Dr. Dalton.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
You did great last time for your first time.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, but it's all because you make it easy. I thought you'd have
sunglasses coming in this time.
No, you make it easy, man.
Thank you,
make it easy.
I tell you what an operation you have. Now, I saw the Fort Lauderdale operation. Wow. And you know what? You must be doing something right because you had a ton of patients sitting out in the waiting room. And that's always a good sign, especially as big as your practice is.
Yes, I appreciate that. The practice itself in Fort Lauderdale is about 17,000 square feet of medical practice that's totally dedicated to treating people with spinal conditions. We have within the practice not only the medical practice itself, we have our own physical therapy department that is specifically dedicated and we only treat patients with spine problems, and with the goal of either helping them to prevent a need for surgery, or if they've had surgery, to help them recover. We've got 3 physicians in the practice. There's myself. I'm a fellowship trained, dual board certified physician. I'm board certified in pain management as well as physical medicine and rehab. My partner, Dr. Kevin Carnes, has the same qualifications that I do, but he's also got an additional fellowship in EMG and nerve conduction study and electrodiagnostics. So he's our electrodiagnostic expert. And Dr. Blomberg is a fellowship-trained spine surgeon and dedicates his practice solely to spinal surgery.
Well, I noticed your staff, too, because that's one of the first things I noticed. Your staff, I mean, everybody is treated so nice when they walk in. There's not one, I mean, you literally had an office full of people. There wasn't just one person at the front desk. I noticed there was like 2 or 3 people at the front desk, and people, they took care of them right away.
You know, we have a really warm, caring staff, and we're blessed with that. But what we really understand about our patients is nobody comes to see us because they're feeling good.
Right. Everybody's in pain.
Everybody's in pain. And along with that pain comes fear. And so we've got people that come in, they're not sure what's going on. Why are they having this discomfort? Why are they having difficulty walking? And we combat that with warmth, caring, and most importantly, education. We spend a tremendous amount of time with our patients educating them on what conditions they have, what is causing their pain or dysfunction, and then what are the options to treat it. And education is how we, combat these, patients that are somewhat fearful and have a lot of anxiety in relation to their pain.
Well, I want you to, for the people at home right now, give everybody your website because they can actually watch our show live right now on your website.
I think that technology is amazing. Our website is www.floridaspinespecialist.com.
So I'm going to feed you a softball question, start off, because you drove all the way over in the rain. What makes your practice different from the others out there?
There's a couple different things that really separate us from other practices. We are the only practice in South Florida that has 3 fellowship-trained physicians, which means an extra year of training, subspecialized onto what we do, whether it's interventional pain management, whether it's spine surgery, whether it's electrodiagnostics, and we consider ourselves a very focused factory. We do one thing, and we do it well. Caring for our patients is the most important thing that we do. And our focus factory, we don't do knees, shoulders, hips. We don't do anything else. We take care of spinal conditions, and we focus on that.
So you're definitely up on all the latest techniques out there.
Well, we really try, and trying to keep up on that. I just finished a 2-year term as president of the Florida Society of Interventional Pain Physicians. And so going to multiple state and national meetings and speaking all over the state really allows me to keep up with what's going on and having my pulse on the interventional techniques and what's going on in the pain management world these days.
So a lot of your practice is referrals too, since all you do are spines.
We have referrals from a tremendous amount of primary care physicians. We get referrals from orthopedic surgeons that really, don't want to do spine. They want to do their hips, shoulders, and knees, which is great. We get a lot of referrals from physical therapists and chiropractors. But really what we get referrals from are our patients. And the word of mouth from our patients is really one of our strongest referrals that we have.
Can you imagine him as your doctor? You've got this major back pain, and you've got this way about you that is relaxing, soothing, and trustful. So everybody's had some kind of back pain. Everybody. And it seems like it's usually lower back pain. But tell me all the different services that you provide.
Okay. Well, first of all, I absolutely agree with you. And the statistics bear that out from the standpoint that 85% of the U.S. population at some point in their lives will seek medical attention for back pain.
Wow, that's high.
It's amazing. And so we've got a lot of people that we can care for, and we have different ways to do that. I mentioned our physical therapy department before. We have a level 2 in-office surgical suite, which allows us to perform a variety of either diagnostic or pain-relieving procedures. We have a dedicated electrodiagnostics lab where we can do EMG and nerve conduction testing. We have a level 2 or a CLIA-approved laboratory, which allows us to ensure the safety of our patients. Because sometimes patients do need controlled substances. They do need pain medication to help them function and manage. And our laboratory, high complexity CLIA laboratory, which is the same complexity that hospitals and hospital labs have to have, allows us to make sure that our patients are going to be safe taking these medications.
So I come to your practice. Is most people, are they from automobile accidents? Are they from something they were born with? You're not saying, but you're saying spinal now.
Yes. So when we look at where our patients come from and what causes them to come and see us, we do see some automobile accidents, not a lot. That's not a big part of our practice. But what we see generally is the problem of the patients fighting gravity for so long. And with the gravity, the force of gravity coming down on the spine, and there's at each level of the spine, there are 3 different joints, and there's a disc. And so all these joints have to fight off gravity, the force of gravity, and they get bigger. They'll develop arthritis. But as those joints get bigger and the discs wear out, we can get compression of the channels or the spinal canal or the nerve where the channels where the nerves come out, called foramen, and this can cause stenosis.
Okay.
So we've got a bimodal, really spine is really a bimodal population.
Do you treat arthritis?
Oh, absolutely.
It can be treated.
Yes, it can.
How do you treat arthritis?
So there are a couple of different ways to treat arthritis. The first step is to absolutely determine which of the spinal joints, which are called facet joints, are causing the pain. And we do that with a diagnostic test where we put some numbing medication right by where the nerves are to control those arthritic joints. If the pain goes away for the appropriate amount of time, then we've got options to treat that. We can treat it with what's called radiofrequency ablation, which is a technique where we put a specialized type of needle right by where those tiny little thread-like nerves to control those arthritic joints, right by where those painful structures are, and we heat that up, and it cauterizes the nerves. It can get rid of the pain, it possibly permanently, which is really we see in quite a few of our patients. But we can't promise that, and because these are peripheral
Everybody's
nerves,
body's different.
Everybody's body's different. They're peripheral nerves. They have a tendency to grow back, and if they do, it's usually around 6 months or so. And then
your patients are probably happy if you got rid of 50% of the pain.
It's amazing. But we've got other options to treat arthritis. We talk about the concept of biological treatments for different conditions. And when we talk about that, we talk about platelet-rich plasma and stem cells. And so
stem cell.
We can use the body's own healing properties, whether it's PRP, whether it's stem cells, into these arthritic joints to help these joints regenerate and allow the patient to get back to functioning the way they want, doing the athletics that they want, doing the gardening, and getting them back to functioning and pain-free.
We're going to go to break. I want to come back to stem cell because it's still very new, and I'm noticing around the country a lot of doctors are getting into stem cell.
Yes, that's right.
Have never even touched it before, but I don't think people really understand. So we come back, we're going to talk stem cell. We're here with Dr. Dalton. He is one of the partners with Florida Spine Specialist, and when we come back, we've got more.
Florida Spine Specialists are proud of their results and their industry-leading success rate. At Florida Spine Specialists, they're outcome-focused, which means their goal is to provide a treatment program that will enable you to return to an active, healthy life. Florida Spine Specialists, provides custom treatment programs to return you to your active life quickly and safely. They're highly skilled. Multidisciplinary team includes doctors dedicated to non-surgical approaches, surgeons specializing in advanced minimally invasive procedures with the best history of successful outcomes, on-site physical therapists, a psychologist to provide counseling, a team of medical support people who provide the best of compassionate care, and a terrific administrative staff to help you navigate the complexities of insurance coverage. Florida Spine Specialists, state-of-the-art, 17,000 square foot facility is fully dedicated to spinal care. Florida Spine Specialists' leading-edge technology means you get the best medical treatment possible. Call the Florida Spine Specialists today at 888-492-3392. Florida Spine Specialists are proud of their results and their industry-leading success rate. At Florida Spine Specialists, they're outcome-focused, which means their goal is to provide a treatment program that will enable you to return to an active, healthy life. Florida Spine Specialists provides custom treatment programs to return you to your active life quickly and safely. They're highly skilled. Multidisciplinary team includes doctors dedicated to non-surgical approaches, surgeons specializing in advanced minimally invasive procedures with the best history of successful outcomes, on-site physical therapists, a psychologist to provide counseling, a team of medical support people who provide the best of compassionate care, and a terrific administrative staff to help you navigate the complexities of insurance coverage. Florida Spine Specialists, state-of-the-art, 17,000 square foot facility is fully dedicated to spinal care. Florida Spine Specialists' leading-edge technology means you get the best medical treatment possible. Call the Florida Spine Specialists today at 888-492-3392. Florida Spine Specialists are proud of their results and their industry-leading success rate. At Florida Spine Specialists, they're outcome-focused, which means their goal is to provide a treatment program that will enable you to return to an active, healthy life. Florida Spine Specialists provides custom treatment programs to return you to your active life quickly and safely. They're highly skilled. Multidisciplinary team includes doctors dedicated to non-surgical approaches, surgeons specializing in advanced minimally invasive procedures with the best history of successful outcomes, on-site physical therapists, a psychologist to provide counseling, a team of medical support people who provide the best of compassionate care, and a terrific administrative staff to help you navigate the complexities of insurance coverage. Florida Spine Specialists, state-of-the-art, 17,000 square foot facility is fully dedicated to spinal care. Florida Spine Specialists' leading-edge technology means you get the best medical treatment possible. Call the Florida Spine Specialists today at 888-492-3392.
And we are back. You know, we were getting ready to talk about stem cell because I am hearing so much about it. We're here with Dr. Dalton. He's one of the partners at Florida Spine Specialists. You're in Fort Lauderdale. You're in the Keys.
Yep.
But you treat people from Palm Beach.
All over the Tri-County area. And really, we have patients that come over from the west coast of Florida. I used to have a patient that even came all the way from Japan.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So that tells you a lot about your practice.
Well,
give everybody your website again because you can actually watch today's show right on the website.
Again, I still think that's amazing. So www.floridaspinespecialist.com, all one word. And we'll look forward to, hopefully seeing you guys in the office soon.
Tell me when you start getting involved with stem cell.
So we've been watching.
You watched it for a while, I'm sure.
Yeah, we've been watching the research related to stem cells. I've been watching it for about 30 years now. And there's always been this hype of stem cells that they're going to be able to cure every disease known to man. And that really hasn't panned out in the scientific literature. But over the past 10 years, the science of using stem cells in treating orthopedic disorders and disorders of the spine has really caught up to the hype. And it gives us a really good tool to use the patient's own healing properties as opposed to using medications or injections of steroid or other types of treatments to help the patients heal themselves.
What you said the word steroids. Mm-hmm. Why does steroids have such a negative connotation?
Well, everything has a role.
Does it depend on the type of steroid?
Well, there are different types of steroids. Obviously, there are steroids that make you run faster and jump higher. Those aren't the steroids we're talking about. No. The steroids that we use are called glucocorticoids, and they are the most potent anti-inflammatory that we have available to use. They're about 100 times more powerful than ibuprofen, Aleve, aspirin. And when we have a problem that is inflammatory in nature, like many of disc and nerve-related problems are, steroids work great.
So there's
a role for steroids.
The inflammation?
Yes.
Okay.
They reduce inflammation, therefore decrease swelling in certain areas. They can neutralize some harmful materials. They can leak out of discs. And there's really a role for steroids in treating patients with spinal disorders. But some patients can't have steroids. They may have other diseases, diabetes, or other problems where they're already taking steroids that the steroids won't be used for them. And so other patients don't have an inflammatory problem. They have a structural problem. And if we can alter the structure a little bit, again, my job is to keep everybody away from our surgeon, alter the structure a little bit, get it to a point where it's functioning better. That's really what we want to do. And stem cells and platelet-rich plasma, which are both brought from the patient's own blood, really allow us to do that.
So is it true that a lot of people have one leg longer than the other, and that causes a lot of back problems?
So there are, I can't tell you the exact statistic, but as far as leg length discrepancy, but I would say probably 30% of the patients that I see have a leg length discrepancy that will cause some mild rotational disorders of the spine. Not anything where they would need surgical correction or bracing or any of that kind of stuff, but it does change how the complex nature, you think of the spine as a long chain, and the chains all got to work together, and it changes the angle of how some of the bones work in the spine, and that can throw some things off.
Okay, so there's all different types of back pain. Mm-hmm. And, of course, you just said arthritis is one. What else do you see?
So when we talk about back pain, the key to successful treatment is really identifying what are the painful structures. And so really identifying what's causing the pain. And so there are different structures that can cause it. We talked about facet joints or that can get arthritis. Patients can have fractures. Well, we have to identify that, and we have ways to fix these fractures.
How do you fix a back fracture?
Well, there are different types of fractures that can occur within the spine, because we've all seen the models of the vertebra, and there are multiple different structures within that. And the multiple different structures can fracture, but one of the main things that we see are called compression fractures. And as people age, their bones get a bit more brittle,
right,
and they get a bit weaker, and these fractures can occur. And one of the most rewarding procedures that we do, because it eliminates the patient's pain almost immediately, is a procedure called kyphoplasty, where we are able to once we've identified the fracture as a pain generator, we can go put a needle in that fracture, and then through that needle we put a little balloon. And through that balloon, what we end up doing is trying to make that, what we talk about compression fracture, decrease that compression and get it back up to the rectangular square that it should be. And then we take that balloon out and we fill that area full of bone cement. Gets rid of the pain, gets the patients back to functioning, it's almost immediate. And
this is surgery now.
Well, it is a minimally invasive technique.
Okay.
We do this. We don't need to go to a hospital for this. We do this in the office. Don't need to be put to sleep for it. It is something that many times I do without any sedation, but we can give sedation in the office.
I thought what you were going to say.
No. I need my eyes open for that one.
So that would, you hear about this all the time. Mm-hmm. And listen, I'm going to tell you something. I had low back pain. Mm-hmm. It is the most excruciating pain I have ever had in my life. I've broken bones, but something about the back. Mm-hmm. And when it gets bad that you're doubled over, mm-hmm. you have a hard time breathing. Yep. So you are on the right part of the body.
Well, you know what? I love what I do.
You can tell.
And
because I went into a chiropractor and I came out the same way I went in. Nothing against chiropractors, but this is sometimes you should. This is good to have a Nova Clinic. Now, do they have to have a primary care doctor first to see you?
No, not at all. We will see, any patient. They don't have to be referred to us. Again, most of our referrals come from friends and relatives of our current patients.
Insurance covers most things?
We're on the vast majority of insurances. And, but the one thing that we talked about earlier that insurance doesn't cover, unfortunately, are the stem cells and the platelet-rich plasma.
Wow, so they're not buying into it yet.
The insurance companies are not buying into that yet. But
I didn't know it's been 30 years since they've been studying it. It just seems like
probably even longer than that. I've been paying attention to it for 30 years, but the potential for stem cells being able to heal failing organs, be it bones or joints or other types of organs, lungs. I know of physicians that are injecting it into cardiac tissue to help cardiac tissue, redevelop. So there's the potential and the science of that potential are now really coming together, and it's really a amazing time.
We only have a few minutes, but if I don't ask you this question, my Renee is going to be really upset. Do you see a lot of old fractures?
So
that people didn't realize that they had?
Yes, we do. In fact, I saw a lady this morning who had a recent fall, and her primary care doc sent her over. They got some x-rays. They showed, two what appeared to be acute fractures. And we x-rayed other areas of the spine and took a look at those. And I found 3 other fractures that the patient didn't know that she had had.
Wow.
And these were old, healed fractures. In addition to the 2 new ones that we will be able to deal with.
Can you treat old fractures?
Unfortunately not.
I didn't think so.
Okay, the fractures are healed. We're not able to cause any change in the angle of those fractures, because what the compression fractures do is they'll take a rectangle and they'll turn into a triangle, or sometimes it'll all just flatten out. But we want to make that rectangular again at the same height that it was before.
So I have to go home and tell Renee there's really not much Dr. Dalton can do for her because they're old fractures.
Well, that's not true.
Okay.
Because the fracture may be healed, but a lot of arthritis can develop posterior to that fracture that can cause pain. And we have obviously options about treating that we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Wow. Because every once in a while she's like, I can really feel, and she didn't even know it was from an old sports injury.
Yeah.
Let's give everybody your phone number.
So our office number is 954-771-2551. And
your website again? You can go watch today's show tonight.
It's, again, amazing. www.floridaspineспecialists.com. All one word.
Think about this. You have low back pain or any kind of back pain right now. Do the right thing. Don't just put a cold pack on or something. It could be something that's more serious than you think. And listen, the best way to go is to go to a clinic. That's all they do. I love having you on. You're going to be back with us next month. And we're going to go to break now. And when we come back, we have our attorney, our employment law attorney, Mark Berkowitz. We'll be right back. I told you, sir.
To spinal care. Florida Spine Specialists' leading-edge technology means you get the best medical treatment possible. Call the Florida Spine Specialists today at 888-492-3333. 892. Fort Lauderdale labor and employment law attorney Mark J. Berkowitz, PA, specializes in labor and employment law legal issues, such as wrongful discharge, retaliation, sexual harassment, overtime compensation, the application of non-competition and employment agreements, as well as the denial of health care, disability, and/or pension benefits. If you have lost your job or believe you have been denied a promotion, you may have a legal remedy. If those personnel decisions were based upon discriminatory reasons, including race, gender, national origin, disability, age, or religious discrimination, or if those personnel decisions came about due to the filing of a complaint of discrimination. With the assistance of the law firm of Mark J. Berkowitz, PA in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, you can obtain the legal assistance you need in the wide and diverse subject area of labor and employment law. You will be professionally counseled on your rights as an employee in the workplace, and you will be provided with legal as well as practical options tailored to meet your needs in that specific situation. Call attorney Mark J. Berkowitz today for an appointment at 954-527-0570. That's 954-527-0570.
Hey, we're back. We've gone from the medical field. Now we're going to go to the legal field. We have our employment law attorney on here. I love doing this show because, boy, you just watch the news. You hear all the things going on out there. And we've got attorney Mark Berkowitz. I want to tell you something. If you want to watch the show, you can actually watch us right now. If you go to Mark's website, which is www.markjberkowitz.com, and you can actually watch our show. And if you don't make it in time, you can always watch it later because it's always up on Mark's website. Hey, welcome, Mark.
Thanks. Nice to be here again.
It's good to have you. You know, we were just talking just a minute ago about Colin Kaepernick, and he's kind of being blackballed around the NFL. Now, I know you probably don't get very many NFL cases, but, I mean, there's some, would you say, job discrimination there?
Well, it sounds like it could be like an antitrust problem if all the owners are colluding not to employ him.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I don't think there's an exemption for antitrust in the NFL as there is for baseball. So, yeah, he looks like he's definitely getting excluded by all the owners.
Well, let's first talk about your practice. How long have you been practicing employment law for?
I've been practicing employment law for about a little over 25 years now.
So you've been doing it a few years, and have you always been down here in Florida?
No, I've been in Florida practicing on my own since '95, and prior to that, I worked for a law firm in Philadelphia that represented mainly labor unions.
Really? Okay. And we actually have an Ask the Experts in Philadelphia. We do with the big sports station there, 610 Sports. There is so many different areas of employment law. Tell us a little bit about your practice first.
Well, we represent victims of employment discrimination, employees who've been discriminated against in the workplace or discharged or retaliated against. And we also represent some small businesses who need counseling and assistance in terms of how to manage their personnel policies and their employees.
So you would help them, say, put together a handbook for the company?
Correct. Basically, for a medium to small size employer who does not have an employee handbook, who needs one for the policies and procedures they need to implement, we would assist them in making up a handbook for the business.
Tell people out, because we have a lot of business owners out there, tell people out there why it's important to have a handbook.
Well, it's important because it's preventative medicine. For example, if in fact the company gets a discrimination complaint, a formal complaint filed by, let's say, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and if the company has some kind of internal process or policy whereby the employee can avail herself or himself of a complaint procedure internally, and if the employee doesn't take advantage of those procedures, then the employee is going to have a difficult time perfecting that claim formally with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission.
Okay. Now, if I feel like I've been discriminated against, what's the first thing I should do?
Well, you should consult a practitioner in the field.
So I should get counsel first.
Right. You should get counsel and find out if that company or business has an employee handbook, and look at the process or procedure that needs to be filed to make the employer aware that there is a discriminatory problem in the workplace, and then file that complaint in accordance with the company's internal policies and procedures.
So now, I'm sure when someone walks in your office and they tell you they've been discriminated against, you could probably tell right off the bat after you hear them if they really have a case.
Yes, the initial consultation is important. Florida is an at-will employment state.
So what does that mean?
Which means that if the employee has no employment contract, then the employee, unfortunately, can be terminated at will, either with or without cause. So if there is no contract, basically the only kinds of cases that we can file are cases that are based on some form of discrimination, like age, race, gender, national origin, disability, those types of issues.
Is discrimination hard to prove?
Well, it is not easy to prove. Most of the time, you're not going to have direct evidence of discrimination. There's rarely a smoking gun in a discrimination case. So most cases have to be proven by what the law calls disparate treatment. In other words, if a minority employee is being treated differently in the terms and conditions of his or her employment as compared to someone outside that protected class, a non-minority, that disparity in treatment raises an inference of discrimination. And so that's how most cases are proven, by using that type of comparator or circumstantial evidence.
So I'm sure there's employees who feel like they're being harassed at work. Bullied. Is bullied a word in the workplace?
Well, people often call and say that they're being harassed in the workplace or they're being bullied. Unfortunately, there's no law against having a difficult boss or a bad manager. I wish there was, but there really isn't. So there's no law against bullying. And again, harassment has to be based on one of the suspect classes I just mentioned to you, like race, age, gender, national origin, age. So if you're being harassed on the basis of one of those suspect classes, then you could potentially have a case. But if you're just being harassed because the employer is a difficult person, that's not going to get you in the courthouse door.
So there's a lot of people who work in sales, which means commissions. What if you're not getting your commissions? Do you hire an attorney like yourself?
Right. Well, I think commission sales employees have to be very careful going into that relationship. You should have something in writing between the parties as to what the commission formula is. And so both sides know what the expectations are for that commission formula. And if it is in writing and if it's set forth between the parties, basically it'll be much easier to prove that that commissions are owed to the employee.
So do you think that if you're in sales that you should have some type of agreement up front?
Yes, I definitely think there should be something in writing, because sometimes employers will say, well, the commissions became due and you're no longer employed here, therefore we're not going to pay you. So to get
Is that legal to do? Because I've heard that many times where somebody left the company, they had commissions owed to them. Do they have a case?
Well, if you can show that the commissions were accrued, were due and payable at that time, then it is owed. But if there was some agreement that you have to continue to be employed while you receive the commissions, then that could be a problem.
What about severance pay? There's no such thing as severance pay, is there? Where they have to give you money if you're leaving?
Well, there's no obligation to provide severance pay. However, some companies do have severance policies or plans. So if they do have a written policy or plan, it would be enforceable under a federal law called ERISA, E-R-I-S-A. So If you're being laid off, you should inquire with Human Resources as to whether or not there is a formal severance plan. And if there is, then the employee can avail himself or herself of that plan.
Do you ever get an employee that's given a severance agreement?
Yes, that happens very often. Oftentimes, if there's a layoff or a downsizing, the employer will offer some severance, but in return for that severance, the employee will be asked to sign away all of their rights, a general release. So if the employee is in fact presented with a severance proposal or a written severance plan, he certainly should get legal counsel before signing off on it.
Right. That's a real good idea. What kind of cases here in South Florida do you mostly see?
Most of the cases in South Florida that we see are really basic individual rights cases. Discrimination under Title VII, discrimination for age-based reasons or race-based reasons, national origin for disability. Traditional employment law discrimination cases come up often. And we also have a state statute in Florida as well. Besides the federal law, we have the Florida Civil Rights Act, which gives us access to state courts. But employment law is such a wide and varied topic. It covers actions to rights and benefits, the right to unemployment benefits, the right to certain pension benefits, the right to certain health care benefits, again, under ERISA. So there's such a wide variety of subjects and topics that's covered under the type of cases that we do.
And I want to bring up every single thing that could possibly come up when it comes to employment law. What about whistleblowers? Are there laws for whistleblowers that protects them in Florida?
Yes, we do.
Or is that federal?
Well, it's both, actually. We have a state statute, a Florida whistleblower statute, which prevents employees from getting terminated if they voice objections to employer demands which are against the law. There also is a federal counterpart under Sarbanes-Oxley, and that was passed, it's about 15 years ago now, after the Enron implosion, and that's a federal whistleblower protection.
So now, what if your employer asked you to do something that you think might be illegal? Now, you don't want to lose your job, but you don't want to do anything illegal. What would your advice be to them?
I would definitely seek legal counsel at that point, and I would definitely inform the employer of what the issues are in terms of not doing something that is against the law.
Including something maybe unethical. It's not against the law, it's just unethical. Same thing?
Well, ethics is something a little bit different. There wouldn't be a claim under the whistleblower law for a violation of some ethical or moral principle. So if you want to make sure, if you want to pursue it legally, that it's an actual violation of the law, statute, or regulation. But that's a difficult issue because obviously you don't want to do something that's in violation of the law, but then again, you don't want to jeopardize your job.
Exactly.
So I think that the prudent employee in that situation would again seek representation and try to work with the employer to see if the job could possibly be saved, and at the same time addressing those important legal concerns.
Now, if you're in a manager or a supervisor position, well, we're just getting a note here. What about violation of religious principles? Someone just called in.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's the same as we stated before. If the employer is asking you to do something that's against your religious principles, you need to follow up with their employment practices and make a complaint internally for discrimination. If it's not investigated or if it's not properly addressed, the option at that point would be to file a formal complaint of discrimination with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission.
What about Hobby Lobby? Did you understand what happened with Hobby Lobby?
Yes, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that, but my understanding is that it's a very narrow decision regarding reproductive rights in certain healthcare plans.
Is it something you think is going to eventually go to the Supreme Court like their other case did?
I think some other variations of what the court ruled on will probably get back there, yes.
So now, what are, you know what, let's go to breaks. I've got so many questions for you. Let's go to break. We're here with Mark Berkowitz. He's an employment law attorney, and we'll be back in just a minute. I've got so many questions for you. We'll be right back.
Fort Lauderdale labor and employment law attorney Mark J. Berkowitz, PA, specializes in labor and employment law legal issues, such as wrongful discharge, retaliation, sexual harassment, overtime compensation, the application of non-competition and employment agreements, as well as the denial of health care, disability, and/or pension benefits. If you have lost your job or believe you have been denied a promotion, you may have a legal remedy. If those personnel decisions were based upon discriminatory reasons, including race, gender, national origin, disability, age, or religious discrimination, or if those personnel decisions came about due to the filing of a complaint of discrimination. With the assistance of the law firm of Mark J. Berkowitz, PA in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, you can obtain the legal assistance you need in the wide and diverse subject area of labor and employment law. You will be professionally counseled on your rights as an employee in the workplace, and you will be provided with legal as well as practical options tailored to meet your needs in that specific situation. Call attorney Mark J. Berkowitz today for an appointment at 954-527-0570. That's 954-527-0570.
Not this one.
And we are back. We're here with attorney Mark Berkowitz. Now, do you just do strictly employment law?
Yes, all my practice is devoted to labor and employment law. Right.
That's, you know what, I always preach this, that if you're going to go to an employment attorney, make sure that this is at least 85-90% of the type cases they handle. I have gone into they call them boutiques, you know, where they do bankruptcy law, they do criminal law, and they keep changing their hat depending on what kind of lawyer you're looking for. This is basically all you do is employment law.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so now, are there government agencies that are designed to protect the employer?
Well, as I mentioned before, formal complaints of discrimination must be filed with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And they really are designed to be, or they should be, neutral. So they're not pro-employer and they're not pro-employee, although some employers think they're pro-employee. But I think it's important on either side to get professional representation before one goes to the EEOC, either to file a complaint or respond to a complaint.
Is Florida the right to work state?
Yes, Florida is with regard to labor unions, which means that one does not have to be a member of the union if the workplace is covered by a collective bargaining agreement. So even if you're not a union member, you could still be covered.
You're still protected?
Right, still protected under the contract under what's called a just cause standard, which takes it out and away from the harsh employment at will standard.
Now, let's get into the workers. If a worker's hurt and they file for a compensation claim, do they have protection against being dismissed?
There is a Florida statute on point under Chapter 440. If an employee is injured on the job, files a workers' compensation claim, the employer is precluded from terminating the employee as a result of the filing of that claim. But oftentimes it's not always that simple, because the employee may not recover, the employer may not have any light-duty jobs available, the employer may not be able to accommodate the employee. So those issues come up, and then you have to figure out, well, what's the employee's prognosis? How long is the employee going to be out from work? How long does the employer have to keep the job open? So it's very complicated depending on the particular circumstances of the situation.
If and we're here with attorney Mark Berkowitz. He's an employment lawyer. Your office is in Fort Lauderdale.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But you also practice in Palm Beach and Dade, too.
Right. We'll go to all the 3 counties, correct.
So what if your son came up to you and said, Dad, the company I'm with wants me to sign a non-compete? What would you tell him? Well,
non-competes are enforceable in Florida, and there's been so much litigation regarding non-competes. The critical issue in signing a non-compete is that you have to figure out whether or not the employer has what the law calls a legitimate business interest to enforce. And that means, does the employer have confidential information or trade secrets or goodwill that would inure to the detriment of the old employer if the employee goes to a new or prospective employer? So you have to analyze what are the chances that the non-compete would be enforceable given the nature of the possible legitimate business interest to be enforced. So that's kind of the discussion that we would need to have.
An employer could actually tell you, just give an example, a friend of mine lost their job in sales, and it said for 6 months he cannot sell in that area.
Right.
Is that enforceable?
Under certain circumstances, that would be enforceable. If, for example, the employer compiled a customer list, if it did a lot of due diligence and made an investment to develop that customer list and that customer base, then I think, yes, then that would be enforceable as a protected, legitimate business interest.
And you see those all the time.
Yes. Non-competes have become very, very prevalent.
I would want you to read over mine because it was written by a lawyer.
Right. Yeah. You really should get professional help before you sign anything like a non-compete. You really should get professional consultation on it.
Now, what is if you're with a company and you have health insurance and you get let go? Do you just automatically lose your health insurance?
Well, there's a law called COBRA, which means that if you lose your job for the 18 months thereafter, you have to pick up. You have the option to pick up the plan at the employer's cost of whatever that cost was.
Whether you leave on your own or whether you're fired?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you're responsible for your insurance once you leave the company, no matter what?
Correct.
Okay. What about unemployment benefits? If some people tell you have to be here for 90 days, some 60 days, why can't it start right away?
Well, I think the base period is 20 weeks in Florida to qualify initially. And if you're not with that employer for 20 weeks, then it reverts back to the prior employer. Qualification for benefits could only be not approved in a discharge situation if the employee committed some form of misconduct with the work. In other words, if the employee was insubordinate or did something against the best interests of the employer, then the employee would not be qualified for benefits.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here because there's a lot of employment attorneys here in South Florida. Why should I go to you?
Well, we take a personal interest in every case. We always return phone calls within 24 hours. which I think is
I think
very
that's
important.
wonderful.
So to me, practicing employment law is really a customer service business. You have to keep the customer satisfied and happy, and that's the additional service that we can offer.
And do you ever go out to see a client, or do they always come to you?
Well, usually they do come to the office. Sometimes if the client is too busy or can't get out of their home, it's possible that I would go to the client's place of business or sometimes to their home.
I would think that people calling your office, the biggest question is about severance pay. Do they owe me 2 weeks or 1 week? And that's really not the case. I mean, they don't have to give you severance if you leave the company or if you're fired.
Right. They don't have to unless they have some kind of a plan that grants the employee severance upon separation or dismissal.
Now, what kind of protections, we just have a few minutes, because we hear about the LGBT a lot now. Do they have laws that protect them in the workplace?
Well, unfortunately, there is no state or federal law that specifically protects employees based on sexual orientation. We do have some local ordinances that do provide protection in employment for the LGBT community. Specifically, in Broward County, there's a local ordinance, and also in Miami-Dade County. Some courts are saying that Title VII, in fact, does cover LGBT rights, and that's a new development. And
Has it been tested?
I would expect that to go to the Supreme Court because there's a conflict among the various federal circuits as to whether or not Title VII, in fact, protects the LGBT community.
Since most of us do work nowadays, it's very important to have an employment attorney, someone you can turn to, somebody you can trust. Give everybody your phone number.
My number in Broward is 954-527-0570.
And give everybody your website again.
It's www.mark_Berkowitz.com.
And Mark will be with us again next month with more employment law. Just one more time, give them your phone number.
954-527-0570 in Broward.
I always see somebody driving their car down 95 and going, I can't find a pen. Anyway, thanks for coming in. We are learning so much now about employment law. And we'll see you next week. Everybody have a good week. Peace and love.